They insist, but you know what? The Nigerian government always behaves like a terrorist government. When people come out on armed citizens, they kill them.
My people, everywhere burst in the areas of today. Everywhere scatter. I do not really know what Channel TV was actually thinking about before inviting Sowore, the former presidential candidate of AAC, African Action Congress, and Aisha YESUFU, a Nigerian activist, which was at the forefront during the NSAS protest. I've come on live TV to lambast and lampoon Tinubu. These people are just so fearless. They expose and made a lot of exposure. Tinubu will not be at rest as we speak, because Aisha YESUFU speak with so much fire in her in this conversation with Sowore on Channel TV News. If you really want to know what went down during this NSAS and so many things that has happened since then and what happened during and after election, then I believe you should sit back, watch these two fearless people in action as they speak ferociously. My people, ensure you share this video to every social media platform, and if you cannot share, like it, give it a thumbs up so that YouTube will recommend it for us. We will be right back shortly.
Welcome back to
The whole of crime scene
is happening in the street again.
The center of political news, celebrity gossip, religious gossip, and happiness in the society.
Join us, the voice of Africa.
Welcome to Lajipok TV show, where we bring you political gist, celebrity, and religious gossip. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please do well to click the red subscription button, and don't forget to click the bell icon so that YouTube will notify you anytime we drop another trending gist. My people, Aisha YESUFU and OMOYELE SOWORE exposed a lot about Tinubu on Channel TV today. Nobody would have expected this ferocious combo of these two people on live TV, because Tinubu wouldn't have expected this exposure. Channel TV was on fire today. Aisha YESUFU referred to Tinubu as a terrorist because of unseen shenanigans that are now coming to the public. Now, she even exposed some things that Nigerians do not know about that happened on October 2020. I won't say much about what she said until you watch and hear what she exposed herself. Sowore blast Tinubu. He said Tinubu was only eager to be the president of Nigeria just because of the power and his quest of dictatorship. With what he said, you could see that Tinubu has not been able to do anything substantial just to sustain the citizen. Tinubu supporters are all crying that they can't bear it any longer. Even YCU and Yedeke, the ultimate that actually advocated for Tinubu at the course of the election, is already crying out to Tinubu about the state of the country. Aisha never showed any fear as she was making this exposure alongside with Sowore, because she feels that what could be more scary than what Nigeria government did during the NSAS period. Now Aisha outblows and Sowore outblasts cannot be contained as Tinubu is being exposed. Stay connected as I show you what they said about President Tinubu. It will shockalize you, my people. Stay connected. We'll be right back after the video.
As we are today, Nigeria is gone. What we have is a carcass, and life is short and brutish, and everyone, we're all on edge. We are the victimhood that a lot of people refuse to see coming to us. We are all there. And unfortunately, we do not have a president. We have someone who rigged his way into office, an illegitimate president, and who doesn't care. And of course, anyone who is ready to do anything, you know, snatch it, run with it, and all of that to get into office, they don't care about the people. They don't care. There's no empathy. And that's what we're seeing today. And Nigeria has gotten into a place where you're not even sure that you're going to see the next day, because you might be a victim, might be taken away even from inside your own house. And that's where Nigeria is right now. I think to answer your question, you saw the last ruling that happened of the governors and the Supreme Court, and how everybody was praising Mr. Tinubu for the fact that he didn't interfere, and they were able to retain that tells you everything. And as I'm sitting down here today, I'm quite sort of like taken aback that the Supreme Court didn't see how that made them to look. Because right now what we know, and that's the secret, or the open secret, that the courts are no longer the last resort of the common man. They are now like the plaything of corrupt politicians. And these corrupt politicians, they don't care, and they're saying it, they say it openly. We've seen all of that. We saw the Senator Bukachua, what he said. And so it's not about me accepting it or not accepting it. It's it's on ground. Rule of law is sacrosanct, and it's supposed to be on everybody. Right now, we've seen the different kind of decisions that have been made by the courts. So the way it goes, the court itself, there's no independence. We have judiciary capture, we have media capture, everything there seems to be, even the legislative capture, it's under sort of like one party, one person doing whatever they want to do with it. And at the end of the day, every Nigerian is suffering. There's something many people say. They say Nigerians don't react. That no matter how much you push Nigeria to the walls, they don't react. They say Nigerians are reacting. The people who are killing, they are reacting. That's their own form of protest. Their own is an illegal form of protest, because the legal form of protest, they've clamped down on it. They've stopped people from doing that. And every one of us is suffering, because there are some people who no longer see any hope. Because when you go to the courts, and if you see a lot of people that have given up on the nation, they know even when they go to the courts, they won't get anything. So they take the laws into their hands. And the rest of us that are law-abiding are the ones who are being punished by the state. The Nigerian state would rather, have a conversation with you, negotiate with you when you carry arms against the country. But when you are law-abiding, it clamps on you, it kills you, and it just disposes of you the way it wants to.
That saves people from the doom and destruction that has become their lot is legitimate. And I say this so that people are very clear about where I stand on Nigerian issues. Earlier, I agree with Aisha that there is no country. Where I disagree or differ from them and their party was their own brazen hope, I call it brazen, that the judiciary was somehow going to deliver differently in the 2023 election, because it has been very clear from the election, from the primaries at the party's level, the conduct of INEC, that they were not planning an election. So when the elections were over and there was this eye on the judiciary, I was wondering which eye, which judiciary are you eyeing? Because I understand the judiciary right from my university days. I have been expelled, went to court, judges did not deliver justice. So, but where I agree with her is the issue of legitimacy. You see, something can be legal and be legitimate. A human being can be born as a legal human being, but the process of birth might be legitimate if it doesn't go through what is legit. So I agree with her that and you have a right to reject a system or a precedent that did not come legitimately, as it's been decided by, or ought to have been decided by the rule of law. But we're not dealing with a country that respects any laws. The laws here are like cobwebs. They are only meant for ants, and the elephants walk past them without even knowing them. So it's a country that is created for two categories of citizens. And that is why I have always advocated, and I'm never afraid to say that something massive, something urgent, and something revolutionary must happen in Nigeria for us to change course. This course will continue, They have already rigged even the next election. If we go by how they have populated INEC already. In the US, where you and I spent some years, if one person was going to the Supreme Court, the country will shut down. There will be conversations. They'll go and look at where he was standing when he was in primary one. If he was backing the flag or he was in front of it, if he plucked somebody's coconut, if he took somebody's eraser. Here in this country, there were over 11 Supreme Court judges that were just smuggled into the Supreme Court, and nobody talked about it. In fact, the media did not talk about it. The public are not aware. Nobody knows who these new judges are. Nobody did any background checks on them. So in 4 years, we're going to have election. The person who anointed those Supreme Court judges, 11 of them, as we speak, controls what you would call justice. And this is not going to change except the citizens said, no, enough is enough. We are not taking this any longer. And that is why I advocate for a revolution. Not a violent one, because I don't believe in violence. But it is up to those who are hurting to decide how they want to fight this. Losing faith in the political process before now. You're talking about 2015. In 2007, and you and I were covering this from the US, the Supreme Court decided, first it was the Court of Appeal, that you don't need, what do they call it, serial numbers for the ballot papers. And as a result, Yar'Adua became president and he had to apologize himself, being what they call a good Muslim, that I know I didn't win the election, but let's move on. So this process did not start today. But what has been happening is that those who are manipulating the process have been growing in impunity. And I want to address the issue of where the leaders come from. We cannot claim that people are not, we are not producing leaders. What has not happened is that some of the best leaders in this country have not been given the opportunity or have not created the opportunity to lead. You cannot claim that after my 30 years of being an activist, from the university to creating media, to to doing some of the things that are impossible. Even living abroad, I consider as that, education and leadership development. You can't claim that Aisha here, who led a major movement to bring back our girls, is not ready for leadership. No. See, when the revolution happens, when the vacuum is created for good people, you'll be surprised at how many leaders we have who have just been suppressed in their various fields, who are depressed, who are compressed. They will be unleashed on society. Some of them will come from abroad. When I was doing the election campaigns in 2018, I met Nigerians who are tunnel engineers in the UK. They are the ones building the tunnels that the trains drive. You have a Nigerian doctor who brought out a baby for the first time in history, fixed the baby and put it back. How can we say that the country don't have these leaders? But as long as you keep putting, or these guys keep imposing themselves on the system, those potentials will never rise to the surface. And the last part I would address over this issue of leadership is that even the struggle to bring about a better society creates its own leaders. But we must not forget that the number of people that fought for democracy compared to the number of people who have transited from that era to the new dictatorial era she's talking about, they are very few. Very few. And you can argue, and I've argued this before, if some of these guys who are now in power actually fought for democracy, if they weren't fighting for themselves, considering that the period of the democratic struggle, the most difficult part of it, some of them were selling drugs abroad. So how can you be fighting for democracy and engaging in crime? So this is what we have found out. So if you do the maths very well, you discover that the real democratic leaders have not transited. And this is a conversation probably for another day. And that is why some of us went and created parties of our own. Because Chief Gani Fawehinmi created one in 1994 when it was not even acceptable to create a party. Part of the reason I participate in the political process is also to throw off the contradictions in the system, so that the more of those of us who are outliers participating, the more the system's underbelly is exposed to the public. But if you leave it for them, which is what we did in 1999, by the way, we fought for democracy when it was time to transit. We all left. I left Nigeria in 1999. By the time I came back, they had bloodied Gani Fawehinmi. Falana tried to be governor of Ekiti. He lost in a way that nobody has ever lost. They ridiculed everybody. Real pro-democracy activists were ridiculed. But the fake pro-democracy activists got into power. Yes, from 1999. So we should not consider those ones as the real face of the pro-democracy movement, because most of them weren't fighting for democracy.
Anyway, it's,
let me just figure off from what he's talked about in the 1999, which is, I totally agree with him. The people who really fought for democracy didn't participate in it, and that comes to the question where you're talking about political process. There are a lot of people who just feel that people shouldn't participate in the political process, and that's wrong, because what happened in 1999 was that those who actually fought for it thought maybe the military were not going to go away or something. They left, and criminals entered, and by the time those criminals, a good number of them weren't even whether fake, they were criminals, because nature abhors vacuum, and then they got in. By the time the people who were actually pro-democracy came back, they couldn't get them out of it. So that's one. The other thing I just want to quickly talk about is on the issue of the register. When we look at the percentage, the 2023 election, we had very small percentage, but we could see there were quite a number of people that came out. One of the things for me, and I think, and I might be wrong, and I want to be proven whether right or wrong, is the fact that with the 2023 election, incidence form was not allowed. So people, there had to be that accreditation. If you're not taking it, then you can't vote. Right. Unlike what we had before, where this, even with the card reader, incidence form, politicians will have a way to just bring up these numbers. Another thing also we have to look at is that register itself. Is it really the number of people that are there? Because what we had earlier on before, politicians used to, register multiple. One person we have like 40-something cards, 100 cards, because they use it to how do I put it, to just inflate their numbers. But now it's not, and then we are having an issue, and that issue also comes to us in the fact that when we want to recall lawmakers, the law says you must 50%. Meanwhile, it's not 50% that send the person to either the National Assembly or the State House of Assembly. assembly. So there are a lot of things that we need to fix. And unfortunately for us, the one legislative arm of government that is the bedrock of democracy in Nigeria, that is supposed to be more powerful than the executive, has actually found itself to be less powerful because the executive have money and they use it to just tie them, or there's a capture of it all. So we need to have all of these systemic changes going on. While we're waiting for that revolution to happen, let's also have a political revolution like he has done by running for office. Let's continue to have that and get more people in there.
I've said it and I will keep saying it. Nigeria has passed the stage of reforms.
You don't think that any reform is useful?
I don't think that the current set of people in Nigeria can reform the judiciary. Let me give you an example. In the last 3 years, I've been stuck in Abuja now, and there were 62 vacancies in the various courts in Abuja. Out of the 62, I think 60 of the new judges were children of former judges or their relatives.
Are you talking about the federal court or the
the federal court? I'm talking about the FCT court.
Okay.
And the magistrates. So they have cornered these places. It's not going to happen that the place can be reformed by the people who are benefiting from it. That's why there has to be an eruption. There has to be a whole eruption of
the problem with eruption is the disorderliness of it, and and to the extent
we are already in a state of disorder. This is chaos. This is anarchy. Anarchy is defined as a state of lawlessness. If you are delivering judicial pronouncements in which you give a public pronouncement, and by the time the people who are victims of your pronouncement came to collect the CTC, they discovered there's a difference between what you pronounce, as they did in Kano, and what is in the CTC. That is anarchy. We are already there. Yeah,
but I'm saying are you saying that those things cannot be fixed? We can identify the problem.
Who's going to fix it?
The people, by the people coming out, organizing themselves, making demands for specific reforms.
You can't make demands to people who are deaf. These guys are tone deaf, and they believe in their own impunity. They have the police, the army, who are ready to kill you if you make these demands. If you make peaceful demands, they'll kill you. Like she said, the only people who can make serious demands on the Nigerian government are people who are armed to the teeth themselves, who are involved in the same level of impunity and violence as the Nigerian state. Those are the only people they listen to. So, and those people don't make this kind of demands. They don't go to the judiciary. If they kidnap someone, they are asking for ransom. It's not a judge that's going to deliver the ransom. If they have enough ransom and you put them in front of a judge, the judge will let them go because the judge will collect part of the ransom. I will tell you something that's happening now. All the people they said they found with money in the last regime, they are pleading with them to drop some of it. The reason is that they say if we take them to the judges will collect the money, we won't get a dime. That's what I heard is happening with the regime. So if I was gotten to that level where thieves are so powerful that even prosecutors are afraid to take them before judges, the country is already in a state of anarchy. So the disorderliness you are talking about is here with you. If kidnappers can kidnap freely, daytime, nighttime, that is anarchy. I think the order in Afghanistan is better than the order in Nigeria as we speak today. Even though all of us were afraid 2 years ago that Afghanistan is going back to Taliban and they'll kill everybody there. I've not heard of serious violence, and I'm not advocating that we should have a Taliban here or government of any, but I'm telling you that this is total chaos. The chaos that can only be envisaged if there is no governance, if there is no order.
Okay, so where we start from is that, you don't fix something that is not broken. So when you're talking about reform means that, there's something that is not working and you need to fix it.
Yeah.
The people who are supposed to fix it, it's working for them. So the state that we have right now, and that's what Sowore is also talking about. It's working for them. They're enjoying it. So there's no reform that they'll be looking at to make in terms of judicial reform or any of that, the set of people. And that's why we need to have the kind of people that will focus more on the nation rather than on their own selfish interests. And what part of the thing he also said, how do we even get these judges to be judges, the magistrate and all of that? How do they get in there? What's the process that they seem to get? And the CJN also, like the office of the CJN, there's too much power in that whole office. And the only way we can get that, the legislative arm, of course, that will be able to help us to do that, they can't. They won't do it because it favors them. They'll be able to use one thing or the other
about if the people
to get
insist and put pressure on the legislature to do the right thing?
So the people, so that's also like what he said. The people insisting. How do they insist? They insist by coming out and voicing. They insist by protesting. They insist by, but you know what? The Nigerian government always behaves like a terrorist government. When people come out on armed citizens, they kill them. We saw what happened October 2020. Young people were singing the national anthem. They held the flag of Nigeria. And yet, the Nigerian state went there with military and killed them. Not only killed them, still gaslighting that it never happened. So how are people supposed to come out when they are being killed when they come out? And then the only people that the government is ready to listen to are the people who take up arms against the state. For law-abiding citizens, every day, you see the way they dehumanize you, the way they come out, they kill you. They're doing election, they're bringing out election results. They brought out military tankers all over the ICC building. All over. But where are those military tankers when kidnappers are taking our children and killing them because the people didn't pay ransom? They are nowhere to be found. The Nigerians, the security agencies in Nigeria, their allegiance is always to the president, even if it's an illegitimate one, and the ruling party, rather than to the people of Nigeria and the constitution. So that's a major problem that we have. People want to protest. They come out to protest. They are being killed. So there's nothing out of it. And this state that we are in now, and if we do nothing, it's going to worsen. We have religion keeping people down. They will use tradition. They will use all sorts of things to tell you not to speak out. But people are being killed. And then people are being told that, inshallah, it won't be them. In Jesus' name, it won't be their portion. I wonder the people who are being killed, whose portion it is. If we do nothing, every one of us, we are all victims waiting to happen. Yesterday's victims were once survivors. Today's victims were yesterday's survivors. And tomorrow's victims will be today's survivors. The people that have been killed will not be killed again. The next to be killed are those of us that are alive. And Nigerians need to understand this thing is not, we're not going to wish it away. We don't have the patent to prayers. We're not going to pray it away because God will not do for us what he has given us the capacity for us to do for ourselves. Fixing Nigeria, God has given us that capacity. So if we lack and do nothing and we stay in our houses and we keep praying, then this whole thing will continue and it is not going to end. We're already on the path of chaos. So it's not left for the people to decide. Are they going to stand up against the people who have held this country ransom? Because there are few of them. And if we come out in our numbers, of course, we will get that country that we want. But a lot of people are afraid. But something we give that will break that fear, and nobody will call for it, like I said earlier. The people will find themselves on the street.
Beyond the protest, which is important, there are times when we, but in terms of working within the limits of the law, since we are not going to break the law, we're not going to ask people to break the law, both of you have considered that. What else can we do in getting the critical mass of our people to be educated between now and the next election, to be empowered? So I mean, I take all the points about, they are not going to change it, people moved, people got involved in 2023, but apparently, there seems to be a little bit more space of what can be done in trying to engage the people on a long-term basis.
Tough love.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to say this, and I think it's important to make a philosophical statement around the law. If the law keeps breaking the people might need to break the law so that they can break free. Apartheid was legal in South Africa, but it was breaking.
I think
those who are in power.
The president said that himself, that power will never be served.
Those who are in power will keep giving you homework assignments and homework to do. Go and mobilize. We're talking about political parties. Very soon, they will come and register political parties so that they can register political parties that will do their bidding. Or the political parties they cannot register, they will go in there and scatter the party. Because what they want is a one-party state. It's a dictatorial one-party state.
Do you think a one-party state can survive in Nigeria? I don't think so.
Well, all the parties that are in Nigeria that are in power, that have been in power, they're all one. It's just different uniforms.
different addresses.
Yes, it's just different national headquarters. Because Nigeria is the only country in the world where you can sleep as a PDP member and wake up as APC. So
let's talk
the
about...
ruling party is one party.
Yeah, let's talk about...
It will be better, it depending on also how it is done. If you have a situation whereby people are being denied getting into those parties, or if there's no internal democracy in parties, and so you find a situation whereby maybe two parties, they're just dominated. I think we almost like had something like that before we got to where we now had all of this. But of course, a two-party this thing would work where everyone is allowed to get in there. There's internal democracy being done, and there's rule of law, no imposition, no trying to buy judgments, try to use the law to just get things away. That will sort of work. And the most important thing, it's not even about what the number of parties we have. It's the kind of people that are allowed to emerge within those parties. At the end of the day, Nigerians will only vote for the people that are flag bearers of parties. And most times what we have is that most parties, they do not give their best to run the tickets to run. They give it to those that are not competent enough and that they can control, because they know they want access to the treasury, access to the wealth of the people. So if you have someone who is not very competent, you saw what happened in Kogi State. I mean, we now have an office of the immediate past governor, someone who is saying, don't obey me, obey. You know, those kind of things. I think
they denied that. I think they denied.
So someone who is saying, they deny that?
Whenever they deny something, just know it's true.
And then saying, okay, and all of those things. So what we need to, where we need to have is, first of all, have those systems where it's the most competent that I imagine. If we have a situation in Nigeria where we all have competent candidates, it's only a matter of ideology. I mean, a lot of people can go and sleep. You only need a little bit of critical mass to be keeping eye on what is happening in terms of governance. We can all continue to go and do our businesses. So that is where the problem is. It's not even about the number of parties, but the fact that people are not allowed in. And sometimes also, like I said earlier, you find a lot of these parties, they don't make it open. They frustrate people who want to get into those parties. And of course, people who have jobs that they're doing, they're not going to be staying there and fighting tooth and nail to be able to get into certain parties and do as some of these things. But at this moment, what we as Nigerians must understand is that politics is now we fighting for our lives. Because true politics is where you get governance. We're running a democracy, so it has to be through the political process, no matter how flawed it is. And so we must now take it upon ourselves that we must participate in this thing and come en masse and say, now we must begin to change this whole thing. And like what he said, keep mobilizing on the fact that we all come out en masse. If you don't do the right thing, we will overrun. So that at the end of the day, let's know if we're going to have a country, let's have a country. If we're not going to have a country, let's not have a country. It's not fair that some people have their families protected with all our security agents, because we go to different houses of either elected officials, VIPs, whatever it is. They all have, security agents guarding them. What about the rest of us citizens? Who is looking after us? So people need to get to that state of mind. And I think also there's something else that we don't understand. We refuse to allow people realize the relationship between governance and their lives. We play government, we play God. Most citizens. So you're always helping. We think we can crowdfund our way out of insecurity, crowdfund our way out of poverty. We're always taking us people's problem. We want to solve it for them because, of course, you were told to help your neighbor and all of that. And more people are abdicating their responsibility to you. They are allowing government to abdicate their own responsibility of taking care of the welfare of the people, and then more and more pressure is being put on others. There must be tough love. People must understand. If you don't vote the right way, if you don't come out during election, if you don't participate, when you are hungry, enjoy the hunger. Don't put it on somebody else.
My people, with these two people outburst on China's TV today, I believe so much that people would have seen and see whatever they have been saying. With all these things that Tinubu has been doing, you will see that the country is down. There's nothing that is moving on in this country. Even though we call ourselves the giant of Africa, you could see what OMOYELE SOWORE said. Is there's no constitution in this country? If there were a constitution, then these things supposed to be guiding our politicians, even our leaders, the president of the country. You could see that the quest of President Bola Ahmed TINUBU as a dictatorship, as the president, the quest for power is what is actually playing out in the country now. that is making the country to be going down. The naira value is going down, everything is going down. Hardly will you see a citizen of the country that has actually taken 3 scale meal per day in Nigeria now. And you could see yourself, he said that there are a lot of judges in the court today that they were actually called to just sit down there and do whatever they want them to do, because all of them are working under President Bola Ahmed TINUBU. You could see what Aisha YESUFU said there. The woman is actually out crying and out blowing a lot of things there. She has no fear. She's a ferocious person. With all the things that she said there, you see that Nigeria is actually going down. There's nothing that anybody can do now, unless the choice of the people is actually the president of the nation, unless the choice of the people, which is Peter Obi, covers and comes to govern this country. My people, you could see that there are a lot of kidnapping and abduction that is actually happening in the country. We actually want all these things to go down, but the president is not actually addressing all this issue. He's out there in France chilling, but his country is actually suffering in the hands of terrorists. And you could see in my last video that I showed you that our government, the Northerners government, actually knows about all this thing that is happening. They actually know everything that is happening. If you are walking on the road now, you can be kidnapped at any point in time. So everybody is just one for himself. You just have to protect yourself, because all the security men are all being corrupted. Even the military personnel, they are all corrupt. So you could see that we are actually running the corrupt system in Nigeria, and if you are not careful, you'll be one of those people that will be kidnapped. The person that's actually surviving today might not be the one that will be surviving tomorrow. So everybody should look after themselves and do not think that they have any government that is actually looking out for them. You could see President Tinubu has never done anything to even contain and even make his people happy ever since he has gotten to the presidential post. You could see everything that is actually happening in the country. We have 2 refineries, but the 2 are not being repaired. But we are actually happy that Dangote has opened his own refinery, which does not make any sense. Are they now saying that Dangote on his own end has a lot of money that could bring up or that could build a refinery than the country? The country has a lot of money, but the only problem that they have is that they are not channeling the money to the exact place, to the exact point that people want them to channel it to. You can see that the economy is going down. People are crying every day. Those people that advocated for Tinubu during the course of election are coming out to cry now. What is the way forward for Nigeria, my people? Share your opinion at the comment section. Tell us what you feel about everything that is actually happening in the country with what these 2 people said in this video. My people, ensure you share this video to every social media platform. If you cannot share it, like it, give it a thumbs up so that YouTube will recommend it for us. And if you are coming across this channel for the very first time, do where to click the red subscription button, and don't forget to click the bell icon so that YouTube will notify you anytime we drop another trendy video. See you in our next video. Bye for now.